All right, so we are here in Geneva, 1992. You play with Mathias.
Yeah, I played against a German international master coming from Germany. He knew very well the opening. I mean, he played most of his games were King's Indian, and this time I played my Zemish, against
Zemish.
this. But I knew that he was very well prepared, and that it was a case we'll see how and why. So after bishop knight c6, knight g2, everything is well known, is theory. And here rook b8, what did I play? Queen d2, a6, and here I played a little bit different. Knight c1 is another line. Usually I played in many other games before with Serena and many other games, h4 and big castle, long castle. This is the main line. Anderson and so on, in the game I showed before. Knight c1, that was a Botvinnik idea. With knight c1, he's threatening here, if he has time, to put the knight in b3 and then long castle. If he has time to do this, black has no counterplay at all. So black has to play very quickly this idea
To open.
with e5 and knight d4 very quickly. So he played, of course, e5. But this is well known, this is theory, of course. So e5, d5, knight d4. Of course, you don't take in d4. If you take in d4, you are lost with white here.
What? Because
you give the black bishop, which is the best piece, So, well, it's a trap, but it's very simple. You take in d4, he takes, you take back with the queen, and after knight e4, you can resign. Here, after knight takes e4, you have to, if you take, you lose the queen.
Yes.
If you don't take, the white position is destroyed. I mean, of course, it's a very big mistake. Well, nobody takes in d4. So, all right. And here you have two moves. Knight c1 to e2 back, or knight b3. Knight b3 was theory before.
Yeah.
After knight b3, white is always a little bit better. I played my game against Vasyukov, against Nemeth, and so on. Everybody can see in our books these games. But after knight e2, it was easy to see that the game was played by Kasparov himself, who found some ideas for black, and therefore our game was very important. I tried to improve white's game if you compare our line from our game here with the line played by Kasparov himself, it was considered black has enough counterplay, but it's not the case. White is better in all the positions.
Kasparov played with white or
with black?
With black?
With black. So I tried to improve the white's play, you see. So, okay, knight, he played c5, best move. I took there, and he took back with the knight. If he takes back with the pawn, you have time to win a pawn in d4. I mean, he has some counterplay, but not enough, in my opinion. If you take the pawn in d4, and you still have initiative and pawn up, for a few moves. If you can realize later on is another problem, but it's very pleasant to play for white. So rook d1, bishop e6, knight c1, and now again he has to play very quickly. Knight d4 again, knight b3 this time, you see, and here b5. This is the idea. Black has to play very quickly something, He gives the pawn from d4, but he has time to take the pawn from c4. It was considered that black is all right. Until here, it was the game from Kasparov, So I took in d4, I took back, I took in d4, he took there. All right. So here, bishop e2. And here, knight d7. What to do? It seems that black has no problem at all. I mean, if you take back in d7, in g7, he takes, you take in d6, he takes in b2. It's all right. Black has no problem. It's enough, at least, for an even game. But how can you demonstrate that white is a little bit better? This is the problem. So I took there, he took, I played castle, he gave check in b6, of course, rook f2. This is the idea. After rook f2, white is a little bit better in any position because the pawn from d6 is still weak. If he is the only moment when he could take immediately in b2. If he takes immediately in b2, a small surprise here is queen d4 check, king back to g7 now,
To G8.
to g8, and then bishop takes in c4, attacking the queen from b2. White has time to take later on in e6, and the pawn from d6 is very, very weak. If he loses the pawn from d6, he's lost already, you know. So from now on, black has to try to resist somehow, you know, in a very unpleasant position. In my opinion, the black position is already lost, you know, positionally. But you have to demonstrate, you know, it's not very easy. You have to, you know, to see and...
So right now you feel...
no, here it's okay. It's very pleasant for white. White has advantage, but now you have to demonstrate how you can win and how...
But the Kasparov game was different here?
No, until here it was played by Kasparov, but his opponent played in another way, you know.
For white.
For white, you know. This is new. Castle immediately and rook f2 was new. I mean, home analysis. And it's very, very important because it was played without computer. If you play now, it's very easy. You know, the different. Computer shows you how to play.
Okay.
Yeah, it was human. Okay, after knight f6, we have to see how you can try to win that with white, you know. It's not very complicated. You play always against the weakness from d6. This is the idea.
But b2 is not a weakness?
No, but okay, it's attacked. The pawn is in b2 is attacked, but it's under control. You can, you know, you can control everything. You never lose the pawn from b2. But
no, I mean it's not similar with the d6.
No, it's easier to protect the pawn from b2 than to protect the pawn from d6. The pawn from d6 is much weaker, you know, because the problem is that when he loses the pawn from d6, he can lose also the pawn from a6. This is the difference, you know.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so rook d8. From now on, he tries to protect the weakness, you know. Good. So queen d4. We continue our idea, you know. Okay, so he could train queens, but the weakness is still there. The weakness from d6, and now has another weakness in c4. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So what to do? The only move, rook c8, of course. He can't give the pawn from c4. If he gives the pawn from c4, it's finished. You know? So rook d2, you see, very easy. Now, okay, rook c6.
Yeah.
The only possibility, no? e5, everything with tempo, you know. Knight e8 again. Well, he could protect everything, but now we move again. Now we force another weakness, this time from d6 to d5. So after knight e4, he's forced to play here d5. If he doesn't play d5, he loses the pawn from d6, no? d5. Now the knight comes back. We attack 3 times the weakness, this time from d5, not from d6, but from d5. And what to do? f6, the only move, no? To have some counterplay. The other possibility instead of f6 was here knight c7.
Yes.
But after knight c7, simply bishop takes c4 and white is winning.
Ah, okay.
Because he's pinned, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So f6, the only counterplay. Okay, so he has to play f6. I took a check and bishop takes c4. Okay. The first phase of the game is finished. We could win a pawn. Now we have to realize, you know. Again, it's not very easy, but it's very pleasant, you know. You have, you know, very big edge, pawn up, better position, and, you know, with patience, you have to try to win. Okay, we'll see if we have a good technique. Okay, so bishop, rook d7, bishop b3, rook d6. With a little bit of time trouble, it's difficult to win, of course. Very difficult to defend, but also very difficult to win because of the time trouble, I mean, you see.
Not to make a mistake.
Yeah, okay. So rook b6, he waits. What can he do? He must wait. Knight e4, rook d8. Now, knight c5, it seems that we have everything again, you know. But it's not very easy. Rook c6. Now, if you take in e6 and you take in d5, it's already bad, you know.
Why?
I mean, if you take The knight takes his
Yes.
check, he takes,
Yes.
and bishop takes d5.
Yes.
And now after rook d6, you lose a piece.
Oh, okay.
So you have to be careful with white, you see. It's not very easy. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems to be very easy, but it's not very easy, you know. So we move back the knight, and we put again the knight in c3 and play a little bit on the other side later on with g4. So, okay. So knight c3, again he has to wait, and we control everything on the other side with pawn up, you know. So, king f2. I told you, we have to be patient also. g4, no? And g5, all right. King g3, little by little, you know, little by little, rook b4, okay. So I took, he took, and here I took, and it seems that completely winning now for white, you see. And I took in d5. He took, I took, and now a small surprise is that he took with the rook in g4. I forgot this, but he's still winning, you know. Finally, because the knight endgame is like the king's endgame, but you have to be very careful how you move, you know, because it's move by move, the only moves all the time, you see. After rook takes g4, the game continuation is forced. You have to take in g4, of course. And knight e4 check. All right, king g2 takes. And now b4. Now you have to realize how to do it, you know. You have to have a pass pawn on the other side and come later on with the king on the central squares. This is the main line to
pass pawn here and with the king through the...
To come in e4 on d4. This is enough. If you come on the central squares, is completely winning. So knight c4, knight c7. Okay, we try to take the pawn. Now he's forced to play a5. Okay, now he takes, and now we have the a pawn far away. You know, it's good. With the a pawn, is always winning. Now the king comes quickly in the center, you see. Now the king is pinned, you know. Now you can't come with the black king. So he has to wait again, and we have time to play a4. Now king e7, knight b5. We put the knight on the best square. The best square is in f3 to control everything. The square e5 for his king, and the pawn from g5. This is the easiest way.
Mm-hmm. But here wasn't better to move with the king here?
Yeah, it's possible, but it's not clear if he can give the knight against the g4 and maybe come later on with the king against the pawn. If he has then to come with the king, maybe he has a small chance to make draw, you know. But like this, the way I played, is no chance at all, you see. So knight d4 has to play there. Knight f5, okay. No. Yeah.
So you took the square of the knight.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. He resigned here.
No, but the knight was not in f5, was in f3.
On
in f3, yeah, in f3.
So you mean here was a mistake?
Yeah, instead of knight f5 is knight f3. Okay, knight f3. So you see, we control both cases, you know, g5 and e5.
Yes.
He has no possibility to come with the king, and then we have time to push the pawn and come with the king against the knight, you see, and that is elementary winning for white, you see. It's not very easy, but you know, little by little, I told you. It's very easy. Finally, it's very easy, but until there, it was very complicated. You see. And it was a very good game because I played finally against Kasparov. You know, I mean, home analysis against Kasparov.
On this
game. Therefore,
and you,
this king thing. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Very, very good, instructive game. Yes.